Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon, and let me just first say this video is long overdue. So Player 23, the person who sent in this replay and has been a long-time fan of the channel, my apologies for that, thank you for your patience. It has been one that I've wanted to record, but I wanted to do it justice, and so I recorded it once or twice. I wasn't really thrilled with it, and we're doing it again. Now this is an older game. You can see I'm actually second lieutenant, and I'm on the other side of the field, so Player 23, Ghost 2244, and Boundchick Outrun are taking on me, Bloody, and Honda Hun. Now, that's a pretty common team, especially for 3v3s and especially on my own Discord. Now, what's happening is that Player 23 is bringing in Landjut, and he's going over to Mike. Meanwhile, we have Ghost 2244 in Golf, and we have Bao in Hotel. And it's always interesting to me to see how different teams do openers on this map, and we can see two very different styles right now. The more methodical approach from Bao with most of his troops on the ground compared to Han's aggressive helicopter opener in Echo, and the reason for that, actually aggressive helicopter opener in Golf as well, so our teams are taking this a bit differently at the start. The reason for that in Echo at least is that once one player gets the far side of Echo from their perspective, so from the blue perspective once blue takes here, from the red perspective once red takes here, it's very hard, it's not impossible, but it is very hard for the other team to push back in. So Honda Hun was trying to forestall all of that. Yasser Nimrod, by the way, did get through the anti-air and may well set down behind enemy lines, but on this side, SAS from Ghost took down both of those 65-point Sokals. That's a 130-point lead, 10% of the opener gone right away because the Sokals got just a little overextended, and yeah, with the death of the Yasser in the upper right, that has been a little bit returned, but I don't know, I think all things told, there's a slight positional advantage to red right now because of the forward position in Echo, but maybe not necessarily in Golf, we'll have to see. So over on this side for Landjut, Player 23 has brought a 2A4 and a 2A1, and it always amazes me the differences between these two tanks. The 2A4 is only 30 points more expensive, but it has 1 more AP, 3 more frontal armor, more side armor, all of that sort of stuff, and it's at really critical breakpoints. So the 2A4 just will feel a lot more survivable, even though it's only a little bit more expensive. I really like the 2A4. I've been trying to use it more often. This is good positioning from Ghost as well with the Milan 2 up on the side. You'll see this a lot, so be aware of that if you're coming in from the Red 4 side, the current Red 4 side of the field. And now my own troops have arrived. That's right, Player 23 and I will be facing off against each other in this game, and this is something where, particularly a couple of months ago, I was really not comfortable with USSR. So you're going to see some weird choices on unit composition, and, well, I hope that's resolved by now, but I'm not entirely sure. In the meantime, I mean, Commonwealth is not often looked at as one of the most powerful coalitions in the game, but one thing they do really well is anti-air, and even their ATGMs are really not horrible. So the Milan 2 getting some good kills. We saw kills off the SAS. The Stormer there is doing some good work. These 2A4s and 2A1s moved back in response to seeing not one, but 2 BUs. So I've brought 2 T-72 BUs up and into Mike, and 23's Jaeger 90 here are amazing. By the way, nice stun there. Lars 2 is not the most common pick that you'll see for Blue 4 artillery, but it stunned everything in this area. If that was accompanied by any sort of offensive, that would be really pretty crazy. And what's interesting here, the OSA is spotted, the BRDM-3 was spotted, I saw that they were spotted, we're going to be pulling back, but I didn't know where that was coming from because I couldn't fathom that Jaeger 90 were that close. But you know, we do also counterspot them. I did have my own recon moving forward, and I apologize if there's a bit of background noise again. There's always something going on in this city, so you know, I'll do my best to edit it out in post, but if you hear anything, my apologies there as well. So I have Sapri chasing the Jaeger 90, and 23 is playing a nice, cautious game, so he's just moving back, he's building up some forces, he already has another 2A1 coming in, that's 3 of them at the front line now, because this is a double stack of 2A1s right here. And that's a lot of firepower. Now, it can't kill a BU, but it can do a lot of other things. And this position for Boundchick Outrun, when I saw it the first time, by the way, I still love that name. He's actually one of the patrons of the channel as well, so not just saying it for it, it's just fun to say. Anyway, Draken, Tier on 5 Blazer, and that's a lot of anti-air, it's a lot of anti-medium capability. The Magok 7C Gimel nearly dead, nearly got killed by something, whether it was an ATGM or an enemy tank, we don't quite know. But Proletary 90 here are an issue, and that is something that Bao is going to have to bring up good infantry to deal with and fast, and that's sometimes an issue with Israel, because many people will only take something like Tanahim in the Hummers, you only get 7 of them, and many of your other tools, it looks like, actually, okay, that's from Ghost, so he's sending something over there to help as well, and Boundchick outruns Zelda, so I like what Ghost is doing here. He has a decently forward position in Golf, enough to contest it, And with that, he's going to be helping his teammates, which is, I mean, that's, hey, it's a team game. It's not 3 1v1s happening simultaneously. You have to keep that in mind. What's also really good from player 23 is that his Livguard and 85, his Dragoner are moving forward, and they're really just melting my Motostrelki. So, nice micro there on the Carl Gustav M3. He didn't turn it off, but that looks like it was manually selected because the Lichta MG3 was firing previously. So, double BU is moving up. I'm smoking here. We have some cluster coming in just to be a bit of a nuisance, and you know, I was feeling like a bit of a, you know, you killed some of my stuff, you had some early recon, let's get a couple of cheeky kills here. And EOTS iHawk does go down. Now, one on its own is not that scary, but if you let Landjet build up 2 or 3 or 4 of them even, I've seen 4 spread different places before, it really does become oppressive, even with a low individual accuracy. So that is something always to keep in mind. Now, Bao has asked for help here, and this is really good things people forget. Just use your pings, tell your teammates what you want, use the chat. Be specifics. This help ping here is nice to tell people where you're looking, but then never forget to say what you want as well. Put things in chat, say, hey, I'm struggling on the ground, can I have some infantry? Can I have this type of infantry? Can I have shocks? Can I have etc.? And sometimes the answer will be no, and you have to respect that as well, because it's not like your opponent, it's not like your teammates are just sitting over there, you know, picking daisies and smelling the flowers and all that. They're fighting as well, and so you won't always get what you need. But it doesn't hurt to ask, oftentimes. So MI2 here from Han to Hun, and I will say, with the SSR from Ghost having arrived, with Zelda's carrying Rovate moving forward, the odds of taking that town are looking a little grim, especially just because the Drakons here have been merciless. I think there's actually 3 or 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 Drakons. There are no helicopters that are getting past that point without some serious anti-emplacement work. So BTRTs are the answer, and player 23 is going to have a little bit of trouble against these guys. I mean, pulling back, BTRTs stun very quickly, so that first Live Garden that was more forward never had the chance to get out, and that is really something that's a little bit sad, because at 25 points, I mean, you have decent availability with them, but 25 points is still a bit of a pain to lose in the woods. Now, what I do like here, the Leopard 2A1's moving forward, and this is sort of the Blue 4 answer to things like BTRTs, BMPTs, things like that, and you'll see Han to Hun a lot on the channel will use Abrams to deal with it, and Abrams deal with it pretty well. The Leopard 2A1 is more costly, but it's also a much more powerful gun, so will deal a lot more damage in single shots. The question is if it's a meaningful difference or not. And the other thing too is you can get 2 mid-range tanks for very nearly the price of like 1.5 2A1. So there's only 1 2A1 here. You could get more DPS at lower AP from other sort of combinations, and that is going to be an issue because I have BTRTs, I have double BMPT, and the 2A1 does get a nice shot off there, wailing on one of the BTRTs. With his frontal armor intact, I think this guy actually comes out decently well, even though the BMPTs do have autocannons. But, well, we'll see what happens here. The BTRTs are spreading fire wherever they shoot, and so are the Sapri are spreading fire wherever they shoot. BTRTs, sometimes the frag launcher will, and this was critical. The Leopard 2A1 backing out of the flames, and then still trying to attack. He's taking autocannon damage, and when that side armor got presented, that became a dead 2A1. So that was a little unfortunate. A lot of good infantry dead, a lot of good tools dead there, and that has to be a bit of a challenging thing for 23. We'll see how he responds to it. 2A4 and 2A1s still back and in reserve as golf goes well. And Hotel, I mean, this could be going worse. Specialny and Notki are very expensive. Military 90 are very expensive. And the ones caught out in the open are going to be taking a lot of damage as even more helicopters go down. So 2 out of 3 lanes here are looking pretty good. And then these BUs were pushed forward without support. And that's something that's going to become very quickly apparent here. I mean, the OSA's back there, but it's pretty far back, and there's no infantry screen. So it's just 2 BUs. BTRT, man, that Peace Rhine, this Peace Rhine is just really obnoxious. And I think when 23 sent in this replay, he commented that he was playing against an opponent that hadn't yet figured out the air tab. And yeah, that's me. And I think that is definitely something that we'll see, especially more later on. The automatic pulling back, I wish I had something that could have shot at it, but nice response there, seeing that he was spotted, seeing he was overextended, and then we're going to be having more infantry coming up, more 2A1s coming up, and this was killer. My BUs trying to retreat away from where I expected fire to come from on this side, and instead I just got side shot there. So 1 BU dead, the other one nearly so, and with optical failure, I mean, my smoke is too slow to respond. They should never have not been smoked in the first place. This right here made the game for this zone. It was just crazy good for player 23 that he put those 2 Milan 2s right there, got both kills. That's 340 points dead in a matter of, what, 10 seconds, 15 seconds tops? it's just such a crazy swing, because we had that bad engagement for 23 in the woods, followed by just a game breaker. And meanwhile, over on the right, it looks like Bouchick Outrun is not just sitting there. I do kind of question the double Hafiz on the front lines. If they run into any infantry worth their salt, this is going to have a lot of trouble, but, I mean, okay, that's kind of funny. Yeah, that is pretty goofy. But there needs to be more infantry up in front of these guys. The Draken, the Hafiz, things like that. I think that was a bit of luck that there wasn't something like a single unit of Proletarian 90 in there that could have killed all of this stuff. Oh, I swear, if the M84AN dies... Oh, it did! Oh, it did! Oh my goodness. Double Hafiz, frontline unit, best frontline unit ever. I didn't see that the last time I tried doing this, and I'm really glad I looked over there this time around. That's just... Man, that's goofy. So in response to those losses in Mike, I was actually trying to pressure in against 23. I was trying to not let him consolidate, not let him build on that advantage. And so everything over here that was in the woods, the BTRTs, the BMPTs, Motostrelki, MTLBVs, all of this, I'm trying to take this section of woods on the corner of Mike and hold it. But this is what was so crazy about the Leopards being kept in reserve. This, I mean... Let me just say, I would not have used them like this. I would have had them over here, and as soon as the BUs died, I would have been pushing in, trying to get kills there. And the fact that that didn't happen, I was sitting there looking at it at the time going, okay, 23's not pushing me. Why is he not pushing me? This seems like a bit of a mistake. And here they are. Right where they needed to be to kill the BMPTs, to kill Sapri, to kill Motostrelki in the open, to prevent this from becoming a big problem. Because as we just showed, 2A1s are vulnerable to BMPTs and things like that in the woods, especially with enough numbers to make it a tough fight. But I don't know, I couldn't do anything about this. It was crazy. And the Lars 2 coming in again, stunning everything back there, preventing any sort of reinforcements, and making everything up here stranded. So it was an isolate and kill sort of strategy there. The Milan 2's even getting out, and the rest of my support too far away. So the OBR 1989 is coming up, and individually that is very scary. So the OBR 1989 can one-on-one take any tank that's here right now for Blue 4. But this isn't a one-on-one fight. There's two 2A1s, there's a 2A4. We'll see how this fight goes as the OBR engages one shot, down to one strength in the 2A1, and this was something that was really goofy. So I pulled the OBR back, the 2A1 shoots at an MTLBV, and then the other one, I mean, another MTLBV, but then they start shooting at the Motostrelki, because that's the enemy that they can see. And for every shot that goes in against those supporting units, the OBR is able to get some nice return fire. Of course, did miss that last shot, I think, but here it is. One kill. And then we disappear again just in time to dodge the Peace Rhine. A little bit of luck there, otherwise that would have been definitely unpleasant. And second 2A1 kill. But we did take some returning fire, and the 2A4 got the first shot off, which individually the 2A4 against the 89 in a vacuum, both of them at 10 strength, the 2A4 loses. But the battlefield is not happening in a vacuum. Troops aren't fighting isolated like that, and my OBR is now definitely trying to get the hell out of dodge before that 2A4 or any other units can close. I did have an MI-28, and that is a little bit scary, but I'm not sure it was the right tool for the time. So let's take a look over on the right-hand side. Bao has retaken all of Hotel. Red 4 does still have Echo and is ticking +1. Right now it's 58 points to 24 for the Blue 4 team, but I don't think that's really too much of a problem because Ghost has gotten diggers really far forward. They're killing SPW-70s, they're killing any sort of reinforcements that are going to be coming through here. Maybe not any and all, but certainly a large... Oh my goodness gracious. Commandosi. Brutal infantry, but they don't have armor piercing. They are the definition of infantry killing power. Yeah, I mean, they have long-range launchers, and that can certainly get cheeky side shots, but there's a big difference between a cheeky side shot and taking on two Challenger 1 Mark 1s head-on. They just don't have the tools for it, and they're going to kind of suffer. And on this side, more Proletarian 90 dying, and it's some more Rovaites, it's some more Zeldas. That attack has been blunted, and right now, if Blue 4 can solve Mike just a bit more, then this is going to be the game pretty easily there for the Blue 4 team. We're only 14 minutes in, and yet Blue, I think, has a potentially dominant position here. Yeah, Echo has been lost, but I mean, think about the sheer expenditure of points trying to take Hotel that hasn't worked, and that often leads to a counter push that could well be on its way. So 23's answer to the MI-28 has been to call in two of these 50-point bows, and that might seem a bit like a strange pick, but they have really high accuracy stingers, and between the two of them can definitely take on something that can't even fight back well against helicopters outside of its main gun. But the issue is the Mi-28's up here and functional. The bows needed to be forward now, not later, and they were moved back because of the OSAs more than likely, but that's a dead 2A4, that's dead Live Guard, and the Mi-28's 2A42 autocannon is really deadly when it is allowed to fire. I mean, look at that. 7, 6, okay, it's not crazy, but it is certainly very impactful, and that 2A4 could have done a lot of really good work. Instead, some Spetsnaz grew, and the damaged OBR 1989 were able to do decently well. Here come the bows, but they're a little bit too late and a little bit too close together, and you'll see what I mean by that in just a second. Always split up your helicopters as much as you can. Had they landed the second Stinger, that would have been a dead Mi-28, so it was potential there, but double book, killing the F-111C, and then these bows get just inside their targeting priority. 1-2 missiles, boom. 100 points of dead helicopters right there, and this was a surprisingly brutal fight. I had forgotten exactly how brutal it was. Now, there is some nice answering artillery, and that was targeted before the helicopters went down as well, so the response time on that from 23 was very impressive. I do have to pull the books back there, but Spetsnaz grew killing Martyr 2s. Martyr 2s are one of those units that, if you keep them alive, they pay for themselves every single time, but you have to keep them alive. You can't let them go toe-to-toe with high AT infantry like that. So even with the loss of the BUs, even with all the pressure back and forth on the zone, there was just, I mean, so much carnage here. It was really one of the more vicious games I've played in quite a while. So it does look like this is the start of the counter push that I was talking about from Bauchika Outrun. He's moving forward into Han's control of Echo, and this is why it's such a hard thing to take. I mean, there's Pruskovnici up here that were just waiting in the shadows to kill its FAE potentially. There's Padobranki 90 that have to be de-entrenched from this town, and yeah, I mean, this is really nice actually. The FAE's rocket pods will loosen that quite a bit more than, you know, suicidal rovate charges and things like that. So that is pretty nice. Just be methodical, apply constant pressure, retake that section of town, and then even if you don't completely clear the zone, all you need is a counter count, because golf count for blue means that +1 tick for red has been negated, has been cancelled out. Bloody from red is trying to push in against Ghost, but these Challenger 1 Mark 1s have been so invaluable this whole time. I think they've used quite a bit of their ammunition, been resupplied a little bit, and just gone forward yet again. And then on this side, quad stacks of Dragoner, I mean, that's pretty close to perfect for what was needed here at the time. Just overwhelm the Spetsnaz, overwhelm the Monostrelki. These guys have M72 laws as well. They can deal with MTLBVs, and while we had seen cluster from Red 4, we had not yet seen HE artillery, and so this whole thing, it's a risk for a bomber, sure, but that's its own investment, and there's an automatic right here, so that is quite a risky thing to do, potentially, especially against Landshot. I mean, really good anti-air, awkward anti-air, sure, but still very powerful when in the right position. So if these Dragoner can make it forward, it's just so brutal. Look at that, Monostrelki, Spetsnaz Gru, VDV, tank shooting into the Dragoner, Dragoner dealing with infantry after infantry after infantry, trying to push through that section of woods. But if 23 manages this, that sort of edges around the whole zone. That's why you see people fight over that forest so much, because if blue takes that forest, oh, a little bit of an own goal there, my friends, look at that. Everything's done. That has to be 2 of them now, not just 1. What was that? Yeah, no, that was just 1. Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to look into using that artillery piece maybe for Landshot. It's a bit uncommon, I think, probably in 1v1, but team games, so much just wide impact here. 2A1 does peek through, taking out some of my own backline resources here, and if there's no reinforcements soon, this is going to be over. There's Martyr 2s, that probably means Panzergren 90 are here. The BMD 2s, not enough. VDV, not enough. There's Fallschirmjäger 90 here, brutally effective, and 23 is pushing me right out of the forest. So with that, and with this offensive over here on the right-hand side continuing, I mean, Proletariat 90 have been just getting their asses handed to them by a bunch of Rovai this entire game. It's actually been quite impressive from Bauchika Outrun there as well. And I know Ghost has been a little bit overlooked here, but that's just because, you know, slow and steady wins the race. True, but slow and steady is maybe not always the most entertaining thing to watch. And this is, I mean, it's good strategic thinking, it's good micro. The Challenger 1 Mark 1s being retreated back, healed up by a lot of resupply before allowing them to go back into the fight. Even the Commandos 90 being saved. And I tend to throw away my infantry sometimes, so this is really just, it's admirable play. This is what can often make really atrocious games go your way, is when you keep your shocks alive, when you keep all that stuff alive. And keep in mind, we just saw a flame tank there. That probably means that there's nothing from Red 4 in this town. That's almost certainly why the Commandos 90 were moved forward. And, okay, it turns out not to be quite true, so I don't know if that was mind games or not, but it was a little bit goofy. I would have done the same push in, because as soon as you see your opponent attacking a section that you're not in, it's usually because they think that you are, which means they are not. They don't have control of it, at least. So that sort of was how that felt. And then on this side, in the base section of the town has been cleared. That is all you really need for a counter cap, if not complete control. And 23's refusal to engage in the open ground in Mike, I think, was exactly the right decision. And so, I mean, look at how it's worked so far. right? The BUs were functionally worthless. There weren't any targets in the open that were worth their point value. And then because of the refusal to engage here, 23 just got me so stressed I threw them away. And I think the continuation of that strategy has been definitely something that paid off. Now, another 2A1 did die up here. The Panzergrenadier 90 are not exactly happy. There's a lot of artillery coming in here, and there's going to be more Sapity, more BTRTs, and tools like that. But a little bit of a withdrawal, a little bit of a regroup here, some Jaeger 90 moving forward to get spotting, and there's double 2A4 now. So just the buildup of tank forces is potentially an issue, because we've seen for red, 2 BUs die, and OBR 1989 I'm pretty sure is dead on that side by now. And the double 2A4, there's not going to be all that much there that can answer it, and certainly not for cheap. So that is definitely an issue. This is goofy. I've never been able to make TO-55s work, but yeah, well, okay, that one didn't either, I guess. Those Challenger 1 Mark 1s, man, coming to the rescue again and again and again and again. It's crazy. It really is. So here come plane tab responses from Bloody and MiG-23 BN. That, of course, is going to be cluster. Can't quite see what the other two are, but that cluster has been dropped looking for the Challengers. Second cluster looking for the Challengers. Seed, but, you know, Challenger Marksman has a lot of armor, and that's the second time that Seed plane has failed to kill that Chally Marksman. And in addition, in the Challenger 1 Mark 1s, they're fine. The cluster was a bit of a swing and a miss there up on the high ground, so, you know, fire and move applies to lots and lots and lots of things, not just your artillery. Stay out of your opponent's expected path, and, well, the bombing runs will not have the best of times. But there's 3 Sapri up here. There's Spetsnaz Gru as well, and the Sapri will mulch through Panzergrenadier 90, as good as these guys are. 3 Sapri in the woods. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of investment for the 3 Sapri, but Panzergrenadier 90 are not cheap either, so even a single kill can get a lot of value out of those. And here comes the cluster again, looking for anything. This was blind fire, and blind fire means desperation. That is a nice way of knowing that you are winning, because if I was thinking, instead of blind firing, we probably would have tried some answering fire against the mortars, and yeah, mortars can fire and move too, but a lot of people don't, and so counter-firing them yields results relatively often. It's actually kind of nice. Something I highly advise that you do if you like cluster and you're having trouble with your opponents supporting mortars and things like that. BTRTs moving forward, we are engaging the Jaeger 90, and okay, I guess the OBR 1989, either this is a new one, or it was healed up, I don't quite remember, but it's there no longer. 2 shots from the double 2A4, and that 1989 just didn't stand a chance, so goodness gracious sakes alive. Yeah, okay. So, right now, Mike is capped for blue, Golf is capped for blue, there's a +1, there might even be a CV on the way, it doesn't look like it. Cautious play from Bao, not wanting to get a CV killed is very nice, but there's enough here, and it's late enough in the game. I think just get the +2, so negate this zone, get the +2, and +2s against people make them do crazy, crazy things, especially with only about 17 minutes left in the game. It can really feel like the game is slipping away, and that's because it's true, right? But people will do crazy pushes, they'll lose even more points, even more troops in response to that. It really is just something that's nice to be able to apply pressure with. So, Challenger 1 Mark 1's taking finally enough cluster to get one of them down, but the other one got away, and that was, it looks like at least one of the planes got out. I think both of them did. It's a little unfortunate there. And I think the lack of anti-plane, anti-air in the center was definitely an issue, because you have the marksman, that's true, but the marksman is just a gun. It's going to do chip damage. It can't really deal with bomber trains either, where it's going to be firing at one, that one gets out of range, it'll fire a little at the second one maybe, but it has to reacquire its targets. There's an aim time to that, non-zero aim time to that. That definitely is something that you have to watch out for, and I think just a little bit heavier anti-air in Golf could have saved those Challengers' lives, which, I mean, we've already seen how useful they can be, so that seems like a good proposition. Merkava 3B. Okay, fair enough. I'm not sure if they're just out of range of the Mark 19. It is decently short range. It could, I mean, if they're firing the main gun, they should be able to fire everything. And oddly enough, good facing against the Super Gallop. So if this Merkava 3B, I was just thinking, you know, I would have moved it up to here. And right there, it does actually turn. But if it had presented side armor, that would be a dead tank right now. Instead, that frontal armor was able to take the singular hit from the Super Gallop and just keep on kicking. So, I mean, hey, sometimes Wargame giveth with its random positioning, sometimes it taketh away, and for right there, it did both, 1 to one player and 1 to the other. Mi-28 moving forward is countered by the Chally Marksman, and this is what they are good for, though, is consistent fire against things like helicopters. It'll get the stun, it'll make it so that those attack of 5s can't shoot, and the backup Stormer. Okay, nice combo. My really expensive helicopter that had already gotten some good use over on this side is gone, and 23 is ready for yet another offensive. There's Panzergren 90, there's Dragoner, there's Martyr 2s. Would like to see the boxes and the Martyr 2s a little bit more behind the Panzergren, but you could argue in this case, because there's been so many Sapri, that you're expecting to run into anti-infantry tools more than anti-tank tools. It's a little bit of a risk, I would say, but, you know, we'll see if it's worth taking. And there with BTRT, it looks like it might well have been detract. Oh, sad BTRT. Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised they got the stun, but, I mean, suppression damage is pretty high with the AGS-17. Okay, it paid off. If the Dragoner read into the BTRT first, that would have been a really brutal thing to have happen. Triple stack of BMPTs here, not really a great answer, but it was the most I could come up with at the time. And we'll have to see if it's enough, but I suspect those 2A4s were directly attacking move over to the BMPTs as soon as they were spotted. This is really kind of goofy. It's just, yep, there's our next target. Let's go have some snacks. Let's go kill some BMPTs in the woods. 2 Leopard 2A4s versus 3 BMPTs. I know where I'm putting my money, and it's going to be a really expensive and costly mistake for Red, for me, in this game, as 1-2 kills right there, the Martyr 2 providing some nice support. Now, individually, the Martyr 2s I do believe lose against BMPTs, but not with that much support, and with that, there's nothing really left that I can do. Now, we do have an RBT coming in. I was looking for the 2A4. I think I lost sight of them, and then the automatic gets its first use in this entire game, I think, short of, oh no, okay, some other stuff had been fired. I'm not quite sure at what. Might have been on other planes, but to be honest, I think we might have missed it, which, you know, my apologies for that. But Mike is pretty much taken. If there's only one place the CB can really be, it's in that section of woods. A bomber can come in there and even that out. And right now, Blue doesn't even need it. They're up 106 points to 99. There's still 13 minutes left in the game, and there should, by now, I hope, be a CB. Yeah, Oxidate Pakud on the way in. F-111C, Tornado F3, Bomber, and an Escort. No seed, but I don't know. Actually, some seed would have been nice. Red has a lot of powerful things like the Book M1s. Book M1 or M2, don't quite remember. Yeah, Brutal Bomber. Brutal stuff. And there's the Lars. That's going to be, if not killing anything in there, certainly selling it. And now, finally, here comes the big offensive. Dragoner moving forward, 2A4 moving forward, Martyr 2, more Dragoner on the side, and there's just nothing left here. There's nothing left. Player 23 has destroyed it all, found it, killed it, had a couple points to spare, double 2A4 and the Tiger. That's banking a lot of points there on the reinforcements, and if that stuff had already been here, that would have been even more decisive than it already was. So with that, they are going to overwhelm the remnants of the Red 4 offensive. And I want to get in to see the unit highlights, because I think there's a lot to see with that. Now, I did have WM. I also had banked a couple too many units, and, well, too many points that I really just didn't know what to bring in. But the WM isn't really going to be able to achieve much either, and there's a Peace Rhine already looking for them. There's, all this stuff. This is the definition of a catastrophe of a game, and because of that, it's the definition of a masterpiece of a game from the player who turned it in. So, I don't know. It has been sitting on my desk for a while, and you can probably see why it stayed there. I wanted to do it justice, and it's hard to do that for a game that you lose with moments like the T-72 BUs earlier on, and even right there at the end, the T-80UM dying. I surrender, and my team surrenders, and that's all she wrote. So let's take a quick look at the highlight units for player 23, who did go 2,410 to 1,770. So, even with all those really high-end kills, there were a lot of losses there as well. That woods fighting really was just brutal stuff. Bao ended up being a little bit negative, but Ghost made up for it with a nearly 2-to-1 kill to loss against Bloody. So 2A1 did some very nice work, but what we're really looking for here, the Milan 2s, one and the other, 2 BUs, 2 Milan 2s, and lots of Red 4 sadness here. Automatic, okay, this is where it was shooting in earlier. It looks like there was actually some contact with the front line, Sapri, VDV-90, Spetsnaz Guru, and the MiG-25 RBT, all going down to that single 80-point AA piece. And the 2A4, this is the one that got the OBR 1989. Very nice work there. Yeah, a lot of these also were just kills off of exploits. And if you notice, the Lars 2 didn't get a lot of kills, but it stunned and damaged everything in its path, and that was so incredibly helpful to 23's push. 2A4 getting the T-72K1, and that is going to be the game. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.